Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're into analog photography, I'm sure you know the big names. Kodak Portra, Gold 200, Ultramax 400 and Fuji Superia, maybe even some old stocks like Konica or Agfa. But did you know that there's a whole bunch of forgotten film stocks out there? Films that seem to have been totally overlooked by time and the internet. Today, we're not just talking about the usual films. We're going to explore some rare stocks you might still find somewhere. I've shot a few of them, and that got me curious to dig deeper into these forgotten gems. Let's jump into some real oddities. Profi Foto 200, Happy Color 200 and Perfecta 200. So what exactly are they? Well, back in the 90s and early 2000s, before digital cameras took over, film was sold everywhere. Supermarkets, pharmacies, tourist gift shops, everywhere. To capitalize on this, many large retail chains and smaller distributors would sell white labels or house brand film. Films like Perfecta, Happy Color and Profi Foto were almost certainly rebranded stock from massive manufacturers like the Italian company Ferrania, the German giant Agfa or occasionally Konica. They were consumer-grade, budget-friendly films made for family holidays and disposable cameras. They weren't meant for fine art, they were meant to be cheap. Profi Foto 200 is a classic European drugstore mystery. It was almost always Agfa Vista, made in Germany, or Ferrania, made in Italy, hidden under a generic label. Because it was the budget option, it wasn't always stored in climate-controlled warehouses. Shooters love it now because it often has a slightly shifted nostalgic color palette that looks like a 90s family vacation. I shot a couple of rolls and I did experiment with double exposure. Some turned out great, some not. But one of my favorite photos is shot with this film. Happy Color was often a brand name used by Ferrania, the legendary Italian film giant that went bankrupt and later saw a small cult revival. Because Ferrania struggled toward the end, their quality control varied. Shooting Happy Color today is like a game of Russian roulette. You might get gorgeous saturated tones, or you might get heavy grain and muddiness that no digital filter can replicate. I like the photos from this film, they are grainy and underexposed, but they gave me that expired film magic, which I like. And I have one more roll that I save for special occasion. Perfecta 200. Because it expired around 2006, rolls of Perfecta 200 almost always housed emulsion from one of three major suppliers: Agfa, Ferrania or Konica. If you have a roll of this film, check the canister DX code or the country of manufacture printed on the plastic cassette. Jessops 100. If you grew up in the UK or shopped European secondary markets, you couldn't escape Jessops 100. It was the checkout film, cheap, accessible, and handed out in the blue and yellow boxes. But just like Profi Foto or Perfecta, Jessops was purely a middleman. Pop open a canister of Jessops today and depending on the year it was stamped, you might be shooting fine-grained Agfa or warm Italian Ferrania hidden beneath a store-branded label. Now let's shift to a legendary name, Kodak Ektar. If I say Ektar today, you immediately think of the modern Ektar 100, which Kodak relaunched in 2008 as the world's finest grain color negative film. But the original Ektar story actually starts way back in 1989. When Kodak originally launched Ektar, it was marketed as a semi-professional film that used the standard C41 process. It was meant to bridge the gap between amateur snap shooters and high-end pros, offering ultra-fine grain. But they released it in some unusual ISOs, including Ektar 25, Ektar 125, and the blazing fast Ektar 1000. I've had the chance to try Ektar 125 and 1000. Let's start with Ektar 125. It was a stunning film, but it confused a lot of shoppers. It didn't sell well, and Kodak discontinued it just 2 years later in 1991. replacing it with standard ISO 100. Then there's Ektar 1000. In the early 90s, having a color negative film with such speed and manageable grain was amazing. It let photographers capture fast action or low light scenes beautifully without needing flash. Unfortunately, Kodak struggled with marketing, and by 1994 the original Ektar line was phased out. But for a brief moment, Ektar 25, 125 and 1000 were one of the most intriguing films you could use. Tudor Color, the British mystery. While it sounds like a prestigious brand from the UK, Tudor Color is a textbook example of a shell brand. It was almost always Fujifilm tucked inside a different box. Collectors still debate whether Tudor was Fuji's second roll that didn't pass the highest quality control and were sold off cheaply. Svema, the Soviet survivor. If you want something truly mysterious, you have to look east. Svema was the primary film manufacturer for the USSR. Based in Ukraine, they made everything from cinema film to spy surveillance stock. After the fall of the Soviet Union, the factory fell into despair. But new Svema rolls keep appearing on eBay. These are often master rolls from the 90s that were found in frozen bunkers, hand-rolled into canisters by enthusiasts, and sold with do-it-yourself labels. But shooting them today, that's where the magic happens. Because they are expired and made with cheaper consumer emulsions, shooting these rolls gives you this incredible, unpredictable vintage aesthetic. You never quite know if you're going to get muted nostalgic tones, wild color shifts or heavy grain. Shooting these films today isn't just about the photos you get, it's about preserving a little piece of photography history. Have you ever shot with any of these super rare stocks? Let me know down in the comments and I'll see you in the next video. Keep shooting!